Hello everyone who lives in fear that From the Depths will one day melt their computer. I am BorderWise and welcome back to From the Depths, Battleship Diary, Season 2, The Revenge of. And you might have noticed we're looking at cram cannons, because that's what I was doing in the development process of this battleship. I was looking at cram cannons and thinking to myself, does this thing... Would cram cannons be better as the final, tallest turret on this? The short answer is no, because I didn't manage to come up with a cram cannon that I particularly liked. This was the first attempt. You'll notice these are quad crams, and I just really wanted to go with like redundancy for this, because remember, glass cannon needs redundancy. I've got a number of people commenting actually that like, the whole design is like pretty terrible. Like for various reasons, it's too tall, going to be unstable, doesn't have enough armor, and also that it looks ugly, and that I will give you. I don't think, like, my designs are usually never pretty, but this particular battleship, definitely not one of my prettiest ones, which is saying something. But we're carrying on because I want to see what I can get away with, and these cram cannons, I can't really get away with them. Individually, they underperform. The concept is fun, so... If I spawn in, what's something fun to shoot? The Stronghold is fun to shoot. They go boom, 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 staggered fire. And this kind of staggered fire, multiple firing pieces per turret thing, while still trying to be kind of doomy, is a way to get around diff flak. Because diff flak is a problem. But if you go too ham, like you can see, the Stronghold has a pretty decent lambs. And these shells are just, you know... You don't want any of those shells getting blown up, because a single cram cannon in this would be just a lot better. But also, testing against other things, just crams, they're not really gonna do the trick. Just because, well, this kind of craft, it's just not suited to them. The block count is too heavy, and it's all just kind of not very good. I'll show you the second attempt. I wanted twin barrels at least. Which basically just meant chaining them up, and, wait, no. I didn't save it. I'm stupid. But anyway, twin barrels didn't work particularly well either. Maybe I should have tried a single barrel version, but I'm a little bit iffy on the single barrel cram, simply because of the lack of redundancy. They do better damage. They are more efficient. It is, better to have a single very strong cram shell than a whole bunch of weaker ones. But yeah, like these, I don't know, on a smaller craft, something for the campaign, this would probably be fine. But in particular, looking at the shell health, 44,000. At the kind of scale of this particular ship, which is like almost 3 million materials now, spoiler alert, this isn't really going to cut it, and it didn't really fit. So then I started experimenting with 8-meter sabot, which is basically, it's sabot frag. It's like the 100mm sabot frag spamming thing that I showed off last time, except it's the 8-meter version, and I actually really like the shell. I think it's just really fun. There's even, like, there's a sabot heat version in here as well, so I'll show you the frag version. So the frag damage at 422mm is not great. It's just 1,000... just over 1,200 damage per fragment, with 10 fragments, 180 degrees. But just that, that armor pierce is enough to do serious damage to heavy armor, lots of kinetic damage. It can really do a number on anything heavily armored. But the problem with this 8-meter version, is that although it is impressive and it is like what you'd want for the main guns on a battleship, is the shell health. This is a big shell. It's detectable from like over 200 meters away, which is like well within the effective range of a lamb's, and they just they get zapped. They get zapped, unfortunately. So these things, like if you spawn in something like the Singularity, which by the way, the Singularity in the game right now is suffered a lot. It has not aged well through multiple updates. The new Singularity, I hear through the grapevine, is going to be an absolute monster, and I'm looking forward to that kicking my ass and causing me much grief. But for now, this thing is actually like underpowered in the meta these days. But you'll see comes a certain point, it is just zapping most, if not all, of the shells coming in. And you can see up in the top right, the damage numbers, well, non-existent at the moment. And they're just, well, they're just not very good. It's just very underwhelming for what is something coming from such a big and expensive turret. And lambs are something you need to worry about if you're building a big craft. I don't know what this thing is really focused to fight. Like I said, we're keeping the Davidos in mind, even though we're not building something to match it, because I don't want to build something that big. It would take too long, and I don't like really laggy fights if I could possibly help it. But yeah, so this 8-meter Sabo, it's worth keeping it in mind. If I really wanted to build, I don't know, a much more flatter ship, something with a much broader turret base, I would love to make a more spammy version of this, because it would be hilarious and fun. Like, you can imagine a more rapid-fire version of this, like at least 60 RPM would be pretty hilarious and pretty effective, honestly. But for this, it's not doing enough. The 100mm version that has about 400 RPM per gun, and that's times 4. So 400 times 4 is like 1,600 rounds per minute of very long, very potent armor-piercing shells. That's just so much better, and in particular, I will show you the difference right here. So let's just destroy everything. Is there anything else I want to show you first, though? So, alright, so this is the twin gun version. Just quickly show you. I thought maybe a higher rate of Firebird gun would be better, but in fact, it was worse. It was worse. The Singularity just destroyed every shell. It was bad. And guns 4, I just adjusted these. These are what we ended up going with. These, times 4, 100mm, Sabot spamming monsters. Let's just check. Yeah, we're on schedule for this. This is kind of... Is this video going to be short? I don't even know. So the way this handles the Singularity is much better. So it's just an absolute torrent of armor-piercing shells, and I really hope I'm not accidentally reaching the shell limit with this vehicle, because that would be bad. So you can see, like, these things are absolutely tearing ass, well, tearing face rather, through the Singularity. They're not missing. The lambs is just, like, can't do anything because it doesn't detect them in time. And it's one of those annoying things about From the Depths is that a smaller gauge gun firing more quickly is just generally better than a larger gun firing more slowly, which is not how real-life armor and stuff works, really. You can fire a 100mm gun as fast as you like. You are not going to get through armor as well as a high-velocity, larger gauge gun. Like, you know, I'm oversimplifying a little bit, but yeah. But yeah, you can see that, like, this is absolutely tearing right through all these heavy armor wedges just because the shells have really good armor piercing, and that frag damage adds up. It just means that once it gets, like, into the squishy bits, those frags can do a real number. And it's like, we've already done... I don't know even how long we've been shooting at it. We're, like, getting up onto 3 million kinetic damage. And it's just really good. And the Singularity has now been set on fire. Once you get into the rear of the Singularity, or this version, I should say, I'm imagining the newer version upcoming will not have that problem. And then, it just does so well. It just does so well. You can hear, you can hear the sound of, like, I believe it's the steam boilers. Yeah, it is the steam boilers which set things on fire like that. Like, I'm kind of glad that I've put off making any kind of steam engine tutorial for so long, because that is a very important thing to note. You really need to keep steam boilers below the water level. If you don't want them to burn your ship apart, because it's a problem. And it's also why I've made very specific choices with the engines for this particular Battleship, which we'll get to in a second. So yeah, I do want to see the Singularity despawn because that's great fun. It's basically disarmed now as well. It's just... I can't hear those guns firing anymore. Yeah. Well, yeah, the guns have been disabled. What's the health at? 71%. It is impressive that this thing can keep flying at, like, 71% health. This is why people have always, from the moment advanced cannons were added to From the Depths, they've just really gravitated towards these, like, rapid-fire, armor-piercing guns. Because they're just so good, and, like, they've been rebalanced, they've been tweaked, they've been patched here and there and everywhere, but honestly, they're still by far one of the best, if not the best, weapon option in From the Depths. I don't know. A cram cannon couldn't do this, particularly, a cram cannon could do similar damage, but only if it hits the target. These things will hit the target. They absolutely will. These aren't even super cavitation rounds, but they could, like... Hang on, I want to see how well these things do against a submarine. They probably can't aim low enough to shoot at a blackcurrant, but it's worth seeing. We're having fun now. Blackcurrant. There you go. Certainly, when the blackcurrant first spawns in... So it's going to have a little bit of trouble hitting, but... Yep, it's still... Those shells are still fast enough to actually do damage to the blackcurrant. Not great damage, mind you. But they can still do it. And so that's kind of, honestly... I learned that from the 5th season, actually. It's just like, if the shells are fast enough, they don't need to be super cavitating. They can hit the target anyway, and still do significant damage. Oh dear. And these are AA mantlets as well, so... This is a little bit ridiculous what's happening right here. I think we'll get to a point where they're, Wow, they are locked on target. Whee! You are going to drop below 80% health any second now. And you are leaning over, and your heavy armor does nothing. I think that's where the ammo is, so we might blow the tail off quickly. I think I love a Sabo Frag, people. It's a stupid shell in many ways. But it's just, like, so, like... I mean, you can see for yourself. 100mm, max length, 2-meter shells, 100mm. Did I say 100mm? Anyway, I could watch these things shoot all day, but we need to carry on. So that leads us over to the stage 7 of the Risky Big Thing. And, Gmodism actually commented on, I think the last episode, or maybe the one before, pointing out that the armor structure was vulnerable to AP heat. Because for that, you need multiple staggered layers of spaced armor, and I have kind of done that now. I didn't want to spend too much time on it, because I'm like, well, you know, I'm not going nuts on the armor. There's a layer of poles, and it's poles just because they have decent health, just before there, and hopefully that can trigger an AP heat shell before it penetrates all the way through. If it's strong enough, of course, it'll go straight through all of this, so there's not too much point worrying about it. It's like worrying about armoring your battleship against a nuke. It's like, you know, you're not going to survive that anyway. That's my excuse anyway. So that's with all the turrets put in, and we need to talk about other things. This is me trying to figure out how to get this thing to fly as a hydrofoil, because I am in love with hydrofoils. Like, if the thing is in the water, that just means it's slow as far as I'm concerned these days. There are benefits to sticking yourself in the water, by the way. Number 1, you're harder to set on fire, and number 2, it is harder to hit you, just in general. This thing does not do well. Like, sticking hydrofoils like down on little sticks like this, I do tend to find it doesn't work very well. It just makes the thing unstable, the thing doesn't actually get out of the water very well, there's excessive drag, so hydrofoils in From the Depths kind of don't really work the same way real-life hydrofoils do in many ways. Shock horror. But anyway, I really wanted to use a lot of props on this thing, so... And you'll notice also that I've put pitch propellers and roll propellers on this thing. So this thing is like less a battleship and more like a very, very low altitude airship. Because honestly, airships tend to be superior to surface displacement ships in From the Depths for a lot of reasons. The one reason being what was added in the fire update, in that airships being completely out of the water are vulnerable to fire, and ships which have more stuff below the waterline are less vulnerable to fire. So there is that. I should probably also talk about the power systems in here. I've also, like, you'll notice there's a whole bunch of AI in here, which, by the way, I need to name that after Patreon supporters, because that's kind of my thing. If you are a Patreon supporter, what was it? Copper Gentian? Silver Space Ranger, I think it's called, is the tier. One of the ways you get name dropped in episodes, and one of the ways that happens is, actually the primary way that happens is naming AIs after you, so I need to go do that. I forgot to do that because I'm a bad boy and just a generally terrible content creator. But anyway, there's 4 AIs redundant, so there's 2 main AIs which are controlling the main guns, which is like the 6 in the middle. The 2, what is it? Like, it's AP-HE, AP-Frag, AP Heat, and Disruptor guns. So that's these 2. And then these Sabo Frag Spitters, like, right on the top here. Those are the main weapons, and both of these guys, I believe I mentioned before, they have redundant local weapon controllers, so if one of the main AIs gets taken out, the other one will take over. And then there's 2 more AIs, fore and aft, controlling the smaller Seawards guns. So it's got lovely redundancy, it's what we like to see. And, yeah, also missile interceptors on all the main turrets at least. Probably should, I don't know, should I add more? I don't know. The power plant, the engines, is something that I have come up specifically for this. And this is basically a replacement for my old 3x3 injector engine, because this is an injector. Because, firstly, this thing's not efficient anyway, so that's not an issue. And also, we really need power density. There is not much room for engines in here. Like, this compartment you see, this, which is 4 meters tall, and let's see, how wide is it? Bonus slopes, by the way. It is only 11 meters wide, and it is pretty long, but yeah, there's not a lot of room for fun and activities in here, which means the fun must be compact. I know some people are saying, like, Gmodism is fond of saying this, that compact designs are problematic for survivability. It depends on what you're doing, and also compact designs, I don't know. There's pros and cons. I won't get into the real nitty-gritty of it, but basically, more spaced-out designs have more bulk, so they can just naturally take more punishment, but more compact designs can be smaller, faster, and more cost-effective, provided you protect them in other ways. And this thing actually doesn't have a huge amount of bulk here with the superstructure. I don't know what I'm going to put in this. Or actually, I have a few ideas. But it's just not anything that you want to survive the fight, is the thing. So yeah, I want to actually take that engine, flip it upside down, and show you what I've done. Because it's literally just, it's not particularly clever. I call it the radiating wraparound, so this is what it looks like. But this is what it looks like tilted onto its side. It is 4 meters tall, and the reason for that is because I quite often find myself building hulls in which the inner height is 4 meters tall. Like, even for this super tall thing, that height is just the guns. That inner compartment there, 4 meters tall, but wide is the thing. So I catch myself doing that all the time. So this is just me saying, like, screw it, like, make a prefab that matches how you usually build. And it's not an award-winning engine by any means. It's just a pretty standard or radial injector engine. I could make a larger version of this that basically has... actually, no, I can't. I can't mount cylinders directly on the generator. That would be weird. But yeah, just as cool with a lot of generators, so you don't have to worry about exhaust or anything like that. So very convenient. It's an injector engine, which means, like, it's got pretty lousy power per material. Although this isn't actually as bad as injector engines, like, can get, simply because Well, it's like, it's got so many radiators. It's got a double layer of radiators, in fact. And the reason it's, hold on, let's stop lagging the universe. Let's delete that. And I want to show you why it's called the wraparound. It's because you'll notice that it's not symmetrical. It's like, I guess rotationally symmetrical, maybe? I don't know. So on this face here, in this inner part, you've got the radiators attached directly to the cylinders in the gaps between where the injectors are. And from there, you can attach things to the side of injectors. So, let's see, where did it all begin? Well, no, you can't. Actually, these guys aren't attached to anything, but these large injectors attach directly to the cylinders. You can stick things on the side of them. And because they're attached in a way that it's like wrapping around like that, they're all facing in different directions, it means that you can place these things right up against each other, provided they're all orientated the same way, and they don't mess with each other. This is something I learned way back when I made the Titan Slung, is that radiators connect on their edges, so you want to do something like this to make sure that they don't all get connected to the one fuel engine. So I'm pretty proud of this design. It's not, again, it's not incredibly clever, it's just mainly just a nice, compact, power-dense thing that will enable this thing to have enough power to do what it's supposed to do, which is to go reasonably fast and do stuff. So there is that. I also, again, I have learned from watching other people, like Shock Horror. I'm not the only one doing content on YouTube from the depths. Gmodism in particular, one of his videos, I don't remember which, rubber wedges are great for AI compartments for two reasons. Firstly, they protect the AI just as well as like full rubber beams, but you can also see through them. So once you've made the blocks vanish through hitting Shift P 4 times, as I've done here, you can still see inside the AI compartment, and like, you know, it helps to see what you're doing. It's just convenient. So yeah, there is that, and you'll notice that we should probably go over the fuel and ammo compartments as well. So I was actually pretty amazed that I was able to jam in enough ammo for all these guns. It requires a lot of ammunition, or rather a lot of materials for these guns. 20,000 materials per minute, because they're all APS. And we actually have a little bit extra, so we can lose maybe one ammo compartment and we can still carry on, hopefully. So there's 4 separate ones. There's a smaller one, and then a larger one, very low down in the thing. And then there's spaced fuel everywhere. And the thing about fuel these days is that it's basically as volatile as ammunition, if not worse, because it gets set on fire. And so, I don't remember who it was. Somebody mentioned that when fuel storage gets destroyed, it's like a 3x3 sphere around them gets set on fire. So it splashes. It splashes a lot. Unclear whether the devs intended that, but basically it means that you need to keep things that you don't want on fire quite far away from them. So you need to space your fuel out. And it's up to you. I probably could have done it a little bit better than I have here. But yeah, so you'll see just in the ends of this, fuel nice and spaced out. Okay, come on now. Come on now. There we go. Right, so you see, like, at the very far extremities, there's, like, fuel smuggled in here, just here and there. Just, like, a little bit, sipping amounts of fuel. So, that is the stage 7 of this craft. And we've got a problem here that you can probably tell, is that this thing is naturally sitting very low in the water. The roll is... It's amazing, actually, that these little propellers are enough to control its roll. I'm not entirely sure how they do that. Like, this thing is top-heavy. Like, actually, no, it's like, is it? It's not actually that top-heavy. The center of mass is above the deck, but it is, pretty much smack-bang in the middle, and it is lower than it is tall, so to speak. So there is that, but the thing is not floating, and that's a problem. So you might remember, ages ago, back in the first episode of the series, way back here, back at stage 3, as in a little experiment, I converted all the metal on this thing to alloy just to see if it works better, and that is what we're going with. It is kind of crazy. It is really cementing this thing as a glass cannon. The whole idea of this is that it shoots the other guy more than it gets shot back, and so hopefully it wins, and it has good redundancy and everything, because there comes a certain point where armor isn't going to save you, and this floats much better. This thing actually manages to keep all its guns out of the water, so that is, like, really, really handy, and it's just really handy to have all this massed alloy, or all the mass material up top be so much lighter. So, I don't know, like, feel free to laugh at me or, like, shake your head in disappointment, but, like, yeah, alloy is, like, really good material. Whether it is sensible to do this, the only reason it's sensible to do this is to basically make the thing lighter and bring the center of mass down a little bit, and it has brought the center of mass down a little bit, like so. And it's managing to stay upright just fine. I think those roll props are actually working a little bit harder, because naturally the buoyant parts underneath now want to make the thing flip over. But yeah, by the way, there's 2 separate breadboards controlling the pitch and roll of this thing in different AI compartments. So again, redundancy. Redundancy is refundancy. When you start building this big, it's less about thickness of armor and more about just have more than one of the things. So if one gets blown up, because it will get blown up, you still have the other one. It makes it twice as hard to disable completely. Lesson hard learned with the Dragon Slime. Okay, so the problem with this thing, though, is that the propulsion sucks. I keep experimenting with having, like, propellers underneath the hull itself, and it's just bad. It's just bad. It makes the thing pitch up, and although this thing is a lot lighter than the metal version, it's still... Hang on a minute. What the hell's going on here? Oh, that's what's going on. So if I do this now, and if I do this, you see the thing picks up out of the water. Actually gets pretty decent speed, but it's pitching up like that precisely because the propulsion is so low. This is basic shipbuilding. You want to line things up at the center of drag, and this is not really aligned very well, is it? So for the next version, I have moved the propulsion to somewhere far more sensible, and I had a little bit of a realization is that part of the problem with having propellers is that they take a lot of room and they potentially block stuff, but so many of this thing's guns are so high up, there's a lot of room on the sides for fun and activities. Fun and activities meaning propellers. So this is the first fully functional version of this thing. And by the way, if you've got a cool name suggestion that you've already said, or if you haven't said already, please suggest it, because I still have no idea what to call this thing. I've had some pretty good name suggestions so far, but I'm always keeping an ear out. So, the biggest difference here, and this is one that I've actually been tweaking a lot, is, well, firstly, aesthetically, the gun barrels are raised as a salute. There's also 360 detection up here, because I did want this thing to be like a functional combat testing thing, and I have been combat testing this a lot. Starting from the front, you'll notice I have duct tape on a whole bunch of turning props, and there's also some forward turning right there. So if we go here, you can see that the thing can turn on the spot, like so. And it can go the other way. We're all very proud of her for doing so. So yeah, there is that. Starting from the back, though, we've got these monstrously big props. So these are the same size as what's on the Drachenstag, because, by the way, 27 by 27 is the maximum, like, height and width of, like, a propeller. Of these custom propellers. They can't get any bigger than that. Kind of, thank goodness. They'll be a little bit overpowered if that was the case. But yeah, these things have a huge amount of thrust, and you might be wondering why the hell these things are, like, doubled, like so. this turboprop design actually does give a little bit more thrust than just having one with better clearance. It is expensive and it does use more power, but the thing does go faster. And you'll notice this is pitched down fully. And it's just set like that, by the way. It's not controlled by breadboard or anything. And that is just to pick the arse out of the water so the thing doesn't pitch up uselessly. And again, we've got more steering pivot thingies just on the back. And these are the custom air control surfaces because this bit comes out of the water completely. And it comes out of the water completely because all the hydrofoils are now concentrated in the middle. This is probably more effective than trying to spread them out. And yeah, you might be thinking, but what if this gets hit? And like, well, yeah, this does get hit. But bear in mind, these things actually are really durable. Like 2,000 health and 50 armor, so you're not going to get all of them at once. Also, this thing's so damn tall is that, like, it has a lot of, like, area to shoot at, which weirdly enough seems to work in its favor in the tests I've done so far, especially against things like missiles, which hit randomly all over it. It has a little bit of, like, it's hard to hit this thing in the same spot exactly twice, just because of its sheer size. That being said, anything with, like, proper, like, aim point selection can focus down any part of it. And that's what it does. Like, by the way, all these guns, because pretty much all of this is, like, armor-piercing rounds, they all zero in on a particular block cluster and shoot at it for 60 seconds. So this will get very deep inside, like, anything it's shooting at, which is the idea. Now, the props over here are something that I do these days. And again, it doesn't look like a ship at all. It's more like a very low-altitude airship. But all of the props, like rearward, are breadboard controlled so that they have thrust vectoring. So if I do that, you can see these do thrust vectoring just for steering, nothing else. But these guys at the front, just to make life a little bit easier, they have differential thrust. So you could say, simply because they're not in a good position, just for, like, thrust vectoring, they're kind of too close to the middle. These ones can get away with it because, I don't know, they're working in conjunction with the other ones. These guys, they're more differential thrust. And honestly, I need to add a lot more steering on here. It has a custom rudder on the front, and it has a custom rudder on the rear. So honestly, I should just go absolutely nuts on the custom rudders because that's very powerful turning for no extra power. And you'll see we've got 82,000 power because I've stuck more engine on this thing, and it uses almost all of it just to move. So, like, there's no lambs on this thing yet. There's no active defenses of any kind other than just speed and missile interceptors. And it almost doesn't need it, because, like, testing it against cost-equivalent NATO craft, it actually holds its own pretty well so far. It's mostly finished, honestly. Like, there's just little nitpicks here and there that need to be done. So there's got more engines in here. I added some extra ones. And we've got all this spaced-out fuel right in the middle, which has the advantage of... there's so many air spaces in here that... hopefully none of these will set each other on fire, or at the very least, they won't set too many of their neighbors on fire, is the thing. That's the idea. It is a bit of a risk to stick the fuel, like, right next to the fuel tank like this. However, radiators are actually pretty fire resistant, so they've got a fire resistance of 40, which is on par with metal, so could be better, but it also could be way worse. And their flammability is 0%, so they don't add fuel to the fire at all. And also because these things are in the middle. By the time this fuel storage tank is getting blown up, the engine next to it has been blown up as well. And knowing what the kind of weaponry that gets thrown around in this weight class, this engine's probably also gone as well. So this middle bit is essentially mostly hollow and mostly, like... not much important things. Like, all the important stuff is, like, distributed along the entire, almost, well, it's not actually 500 meters, my goodness. It's distributed along the entire length of this, which means that if you're shooting at it from the side, if you hit an important thing, that's the only important thing you're going to hit, most likely. So, quite proud of that, really. And we should probably show this thing off. It can successfully take on... I don't remember who it was. I was meaning to look it up and I forgot. I've got a memory like a sieve. I apologize. The Geigers, which is a grey Talon craft which lobs huge missiles. Where is it? I think it's... Here it is. So it was suggested that I combat test against that because it is like... I got distracted by the lore here. Anyway, so... The idea of this thing is that it just lobs a huge amount of big missiles at you, and if your ship can defend against that, especially since it uses laser-guided missiles, not radar or infrared, then you've got some pretty good missile defense, and this crushes it. A single Geigers can't touch it, and this thing can successfully take on 2 of these things at once. It does have a little bit of material advantage, but there is that. And, it can also take on 2 strongholds at once, which was a hilarious combat test because it actually collided with one of them. So yeah, we should... Let's see, how much is this? This thing also is weirdly cheaper and smaller than I was expecting, which is weird to say. It is bigger than the Drachenslong. This is... What is it? This is just over 75,000 blocks, 2.8 million materials. And the Drachenslong, let's go look at the actual Drachenslong. The Drachenslong Mark II is just over 2 million, so it's 2.1 million, and it is 74,000 blocks. So this thing is only slightly bigger than the Drachenslong, actually. So, yeah, we need to actually go have a little bit of combat test, because I know, like, you know... I don't know. Do I want to... I actually want to save that for when this thing is completely finished. I'm not sure what else to add. I actually want to experiment with warp drives in this thing, because there's a really cheesy thing I want to try, but that's going to take some time. Alright, so sorry to, like, you know, be a tease, but this thing will shoot the Drachenslong another day. But in the meantime, we do need to go... Let's spawn in the Meg, shall we? Let's see how this does against the Meg, because that'll be fun. The Meg is like a million materials cheaper than this, so let's spawn in 2 Megs. Meg from accounting, we need you. So immediately you can see there's an absolute river of fire here, and the Meg has taken off one of our propellers. That's so rude. That's so incredibly rude. And that didn't even cause like a health drop on it because it's just so big. And all the missiles of the Meg get deleted immediately. Let's see how we're doing. 99%. 98%. Meg's actually kind of a tough cookie. Shock aura, I know. And degraded mode, my old friend. Degraded mode, my old friend. Degraded mode, my old friend. Wow, that's a lot of blocks. I hope I'm like my shells aren't despawning. That would be really unfortunate. Also, I think you're aiming at the opposite. You're aiming at the wrong Meg. Stop aiming at the wrong Meg.
Receiving.
Aiming at the wrong Meg, that is bad. Aiming at the wrong Meg, that is bad. Let's see, how are we doing here? Doing just fine. Wow, what happened to your superstructure, dude? I think I need to tweak the target prioritization a little bit. Because it really shouldn't be aiming for that guy. Or should it? Also, if you're curious about the combat behavior, it's set to this. This is my default broadside, simply because I don't want this thing to run away. It is a glass cannon, but also it is helpful to stay close enough to the thing so you can shoot it. Whee! Also, why are they sailing away from each other? This is weird. This is very strange. Oh, wow. Wow, wow. Ow, wow, wow. Okay, now you're aiming for the... Oh, it's got a multiplier for the, like, current target. I remember now. Whee! How you doing? 97% still? That's lovely. Whee! How you doing? I think the shells are despawning. We'll have to see here. This is fired. Nope, it's hit the... Whoa! I think maybe it did despawn. Not sure how you tell. It would be nice if there was a little UI warning. Yeah, I think it is despawning. There's not a hell of a lot of ducker. There's not as much ducker as I would like heading over here. 96%. Whee! Degraded mode, my old friend. Whee! So the great thing about this broadside... Deacons, hell, that's a lot of bullets. Look at all these bullets. There's big bullets, small bullets. All the bullets. Whee! Aim below the waterline? Not a problem. How much damage have we done? Okay, so we've done over 7 million material damage? Kinetic damage, as you do. My goodness. My goodness, that's a lot of fun and activities right over there. Whee! Now we're getting into it. Look at that block confetti. How are we doing, though? Lots of surface damage, because that's what Hollow Point tends to do. Lost some props, as you tend to do. Still motoring along just fine, though. Thank goodness for redundancy. Redundancy is refundancy. Whoa, okay, was that a despawn? Why did it teleport me all the way back? Whee! Also, combat testing, very handy hint. Hitch a ride on shells, it's fun. Over 10 million damage done so far. Over 10 million bullets served. Whee! 94%, jeez. Somebody's taken some punishment. Actually, I think like 2 Megalons together is like over 3 million materials worth of stuff, so... That's pretty good. Literally all the guns are still alive. Literally all of them. Hello, are you sinking? You should be. Whee! I'm just having fun now. You might have noticed, I'm just having fun. I want to see both Megalodons die. Whee! Is it getting closer? Yes, it is. Is it getting closer? Yes, it is. Did your ammo compartment get taken out yet? Not yet, but it will. Because AP Sabo heat is kind of good for that. Whee! Are you even firing anymore, bro? I don't think it is. Yep, and there goes your ammo storage. And let's see. You know what would be really good is a range finding thing in the UI, so you can just, I don't know, hop into the E menu, hover over something, and it can tell you how far away from the camera it is. That would be pretty good. Yeah, I've got to tweak the target prioritization on this thing. Because it's a little bit, yeah, I think that's what happens when something despawns. Ah! Whee! Yep, I think that is what happens when something despawns. Maybe I should rethink this a little bit. Because there's definitely more than whatever the shell limit is. Oh, look at that! The little secondary guns are taking care of this fella for us. That's so cute! That is so cute. Whee! Help! Okay. Alright, we get it. I don't think the Megs are gonna win this one. Are you even firing? Okay, no, you are firing, because your battery's going down. Because railguns. Yeah, that does it for this entry of Battleship Diary. This thing is coming along nicely, and it is actually floating and fighting and moving and all that kind of stuff. And being a nice big sponge, a nice glass cannon with a nice big superstructure for people to shoot at. It's great. Uh-oh. What just happened? Nope, we didn't lose an AI. I think something weird just happened. Nope, nothing weird just happened. Alright, that'll do for this. If you've got any suggestions for what else I should add on this, bearing in mind that space is at a premium, or rather, space that isn't horribly vulnerable to enemy fire is at a premium, yeah, I'd be glad to know. Name suggestions too. So yeah, that'll do for this episode of Battleship Diary. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Support me on Patreon or YouTube membership if you like. It really helps, and there's fun perks in it for you. Thank you to all my current supporters, and I will see you next time in From the Depths, Battleship Diary. Farewell!